So today something interesting happened. Our church had to move out of its space about a year ago, and we had a bunch of chairs, and we decided to give most of them away because the cost of putting them in a storage container would eventually cost more than the chairs themselves. So we gave most of them to another church, and I took about 80 of them and put them here in my garage. By the way, the studio setup is in my garage. So half of my garage up until this afternoon was chairs, and the other half of my garage was my studio here. And I decided to give away the rest of the chairs, and so the gentleman came with his truck this afternoon, but in order to pull all the chairs out of here, we had to basically dismantle my whole studio. We took the backdrop down, we removed all of the lights and moved them out of their places. This chair got moved out of its place, this table, all of my props, everything was dismantled and everything was unplugged and everything was a mess. And this kind of threw me into somewhat of a state of chaos. The first question that I began to ask was, how am I going to put out my vlog entry tomorrow morning? I can't shoot video tonight. I can't sit and talk. I can't bring together the insights and point out the highlights of the day if I can't sit and talk. And so I went back to my footage and I was trying to think of a way to put it together without the footage, and it just didn't seem to come together. There was no real story that I could tell. And I realized that if I didn't act quickly to rescue my creative space, my whole creative endeavor was going to come crashing to an end. And it just kind of underscored for me the importance of creative spaces, that the foundational creative act is the act of creating a creative space. See, we kind of underestimate the power of a space. A creative space doesn't have to be much. It just has to be a space that you set aside and sanctify for a particular activity, for a particular creative activity, and that you equip with the tools necessary to facilitate that activity. I like to think of, at my daughter's school, the first thing she does when she gets to school is she runs over to the wall in front of her classroom, and she's got a hook on that wall with her number. And she tells me, "Daddy, this is my hook right there, right here." Her name's not on it, she just knows her number. And the first thing she does when she goes to school is she hangs her backpack on that hook. And then she goes on about her business, but throughout the day, whenever she needs anything from that backpack, she knows to come back to that hook. And so all this hook is a little space on a wall where somebody screwed in a piece of metal. But once that piece of metal was screwed into that wall, that place was given a purpose. And that purpose was so useful that the same people come back to that space each and every day to perform the same functions that they perform day in and day out, because the space has been set aside for that. It's been sanctified for that. Now, I've wanted to do videos for years. I've had all of these ideas about sitting in front of a video camera and talking. Creating teachings or classes. I was thinking all kinds of courses I could create if I could just get in front of a camera and talk. What I did not have was a space where I could get in front of a camera and talk. What I did not have was a space set aside for just getting in front of a camera and talking. And when I finally decided to create the space, I was not thinking about vlogging or I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just knew I needed the space. I had not decided I was going to create courses. I just decided, you know what? I'm going to put up a black backdrop. I'm going to figure out how to arrange the lights. And I'm going to set up a camera there. And I'm going to get a lavalier microphone and an H4n. And I'm going to figure out how to shoot high quality videos. And once I set that up, I did a couple practices where I sat in front of the camera and I talked, and And I showed someone one of the videos where I was just sitting in front of the camera talking with a black backdrop, and he said, "What is this?" I said, "Oh, I just kind of set up this camera studio in my garage, and I'm just kind of testing it out. I haven't really figured out what I'm going to do yet." And he said, "PB, we need you to sit in front of that camera every day, and we need you to talk to us." And so that kind of, I said, "Really?" I mean, I didn't really believe it at the time. But when I began to think about it, and then I began to research what vlogging is, and I started to watch other vloggers, all of a sudden the inspiration to start my vlog was born, but it was born after the creation of the creative space. Inspiration needs space within which to unfold itself. Oftentimes, inspiration is awaiting the creation of space. It's awaiting the setting aside of space. And once the space is there, it's like you say, "I want to be a writer." Well, where do you write? Do you have a writing space set aside in your house where nothing happens there but writing? You say, "Well, I want to be an athlete." Okay, well, do you have a space where you work out and nothing happens there but working out? Like, whatever it is that you endeavor to do in life, it's not just going to magically happen one day. Like you say, "Well, I want to write books." Well, if you don't have a writing space, see, the thing is, whatever creative impulse you have on the inside of you, if you give it a space, that space will call you back to it. It's like this studio right here where my camera's set up and my lights are set up and my backdrop, it calls me, like it calls out to me throughout the day. Like I feel myself drawn to this space because it stimulates my creative impulse. It's not just any space that I set aside for anything, but it's a space that corresponds to the creative impulse that was already in my heart before I created the space. And so you have to ask yourself, what is the creative impulse that's already stirring in your heart? That's the first question. And then the second question is, what do I need to do to create a space to provide room for that impulse to unfold itself in the form of inspiration? You can't do anything until you've created space to do something. Your destiny, whatever you sense is in the realm of your destiny, you need to create space for your destiny by creating space within which your creative impulses can open up and come to fruition. So I had a bunch of people over this evening, my wife and I, and we had a great time of fellowship. And at the end of it, I grabbed a couple of the guys and I said, "Could you help me?" And they came into the garage with me and they helped me rehang my black backdrop. And after rehanging the backdrop, I set up the lights and moved everything out of the way and quickly reset my studio. This is the thing you need to understand as well. Your space doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be functional. Like if you were able to look around me, you would see that this is like the nastiest, this is the jankiest, this is the ugliest space you've ever seen. I mean, this is not a perfect space. It looks great on video. It doesn't look so good where I'm sitting. It is colder than a mofo up in this piece. It is freezing in this room right now. So the thing you need to remember is the space doesn't have to be ideal. It just has to work. I challenge you this week, I challenge you before the day is done to identify your creative impulse and take one step towards creating a space for it. And don't think big, don't think, "Oh, well, I need to build an extra room." We tend to think that it has to be a bigger deal than it is. So mark off a space and equip it with what you need. Take a step towards clearing a creative space so that your creativity can unfold itself in that place. It'll change your life.